Saturday, the 12th of December, 2020, depending on when you're watching this. So I wanted to update you guys. I know I've gone through a couple different mindsets, and I also wanted to share the fact that I changed my mind on a lot of different things depending on what the new information coming up is presenting. And so just as a recap, if you haven't watched all the other videos, so this area right here I started with actually the chisel that I'm using now, which is only a 1-inch wide breaker chisel. And my concern was that this was actually fracturing too much along the crack here. And so then what I did was I bought a set of other chisels, and the one I was using is this 3-inch scaling chisel. And although that was working, and I can use that in other high spots to just kind of eat away a little bit, but for this large upheave, that was not removing material very quickly, and it was a lot of work on my body just to hold the tool in place and everything. So I decided after the first day of doing that and feeling sore the next day, I came back through and was using the point bit and then cleaning it up with the chisel, the flat chisel, through this area here. And I only did about an hour of that. That was last Sunday, and I stopped mainly because my shoulders were really hurting me, and I was just fatigued from the day before running the breaker hammer. So what I decided to do after that was I went ahead and did a third coat of mud around all those paper, the cardboard reinforced corner tape called Perfect 90 or Perfect Edge or something. I don't know what it was. I showed the picture of it in some previous video. So today, what I'm doing is actually much more effective. And now that I know I'm not worried about chiseling up this crack here, because I'm gonna do some type of a pour, whether it's just concrete filler or if it's the thin set when I'm mixing the mortar. I'll decide that at a later time, just depending on what I've got left. But what I've been doing is kind of emulating what I should have been doing, or what I would like to have done with my cutting wheel, but there's just too much area to cover, and it was just creating way too much dust in here. So what I started doing was I'd come over about 3 inches, and then I'll chisel from the low spot to the high spot, and then come in from the side angle here and just chip up that center row. And what it's doing is it's flaking into much bigger pieces like this, because I'm cutting each side, and then it just kind of breaks up underneath, versus creating just this bunch of small little breaks here and there. So here's an example. I cleared this one out, and I don't know how well this shows up on camera, but so I just chipped a row right here, and then what I'll do is I'll just come in from the side, get my point of the chisel here, and then just break it that way. Since I'm up against the wall, I'll be coming from this direction on this side. So I'll go ahead and get all my stuff back on, and I'll film that part of it for you guys so that you can see exactly what I'm talking about with how it breaks away. All right, so that one took me less than a minute to come across there. And that should be low enough. Once I get all this along here, back all the way around here, I'll start breaking out the level and seeing where my high spots are and break off some more. But that's at least the update for now, and we'll catch you here in a little bit. All right, so still a little dusty in here, but I wanted to show you the progress that I've got. I started about right here today and came all the way down this way, and then went back to over there and started working my way down this way, and I'm right here there. So I've got about 16 inches or so left. But I wanted to show you what I'm doing is I got my 4-foot level, which spans this gap here that I'm working on, and I'm coming across, making sure that this point and this point are level, and then anything that touches the bottom of the level there, I'm marking it with some lumber pencil. It's hard to see because it's yellow, but I'm marking those high spots, and then I'll come through with the chipper hammer and clean those up. So I've got, like I said, about 16 inches here left on this end, and then I'll clean up this area through the center, and then I'll go down to that side and make sure that that's all level and chip it away however I need to. So that's the update, and I've been at it off and on for about 5 hours or so today. Only probably half of that is actually working in here. A lot of times I'll get overheated and I'll just go do something outside and then come back in. But I'm not going to be doing too much longer. I'll try to do a couple more shifts. So maybe another half an hour or so, and hopefully I can get to the very end of this ridge, breaking it up at least, even if I don't level it all out today. So I'll take another video here when I'm done with what I'm doing tonight. All right, so after a long day off and on, I finally got all the way over to this wall, and you can see how much material was actually removed, because that was all the way up to the drywall there. So one thing, I mixed up some mud and did the final last little bit of mudding that needed to be done in this closet here, and patched up this little area right here. And so the next problem that I have to solve is this little collapsed edge that spills over into the bathroom floor, and I'm gonna have to build some sort of a barrier there, just enough that it'll hold the concrete from spilling down into the bottom. And what I think I'm gonna do is I'm going to use just regular concrete. Well, I'm not 100% sure, but I'll do a small batch of concrete and at least fix this little area here with some sort of a retainer on it. And then the next step in here, I think, is going to be using a self-leveler, which I do not have. I will have to get that from big box store or whatever. So putting a pin in this one, the good thing is that everything that I've seen is only like a few hours before you can actually set stuff down on it. So I'm going to fill this with a self-leveler all throughout here, I'll grab 2 bags just in case. I've got some work that needs to be done in the bathroom as well, so I'll probably need a second bag for that anyway. But the bulk of this is done, at least. So tomorrow, what I'm going to do is I'm going to sand all the walls and ceilings and everything down and prep it for, I'll do the sponge work on it, smooth it out, and if everything goes well, sometime later this week, perhaps, hopefully before next weekend, but if not, I guess it'll just be next weekend. I'll be doing the texture on all the walls, so I'll need to tape up some plastic over here and secure the plastic on this here better. And once the texture is on the walls, then I'll actually go through and pull the lights and do the texture on the ceiling, which is this swirling pattern that my wife really likes. And see if I can get I don't know if I really get a shot of that, but so basically all this is you take one of those round texture brushes and you roll on some thinned out texture mud on the ceiling, and then just come through in a circular pattern with a slight overlap, and it just creates this little kind of like Van Gogh swirl strokes. And one thing is it covers up a lot, so you can actually get away with some pretty basic mudding and taping on your ceiling. But any big stuff, you probably have to make sure that that's covered pretty good. So anyway, so that's it for today. And I don't know if I'm gonna do any footage for tomorrow for sanding and everything like that. Sanding's pretty boring, but I'm gonna call it for today. All right, so welcome back. It's the next day. It's Sunday, the 13th of December. And what I'm doing today is I'm doing my sanding. I've got a couple different sanders. This is the pole sander that I usually use, and I use screens anyway. And what happened, I've got this other one that is hooked up to a vacuum, and it just was not moving very smooth across the surface, but I did have a coarser grit screen on this one originally. But what I did was I went ahead and sanded all the walls with this one, and I switched over to the finer screen, which is a 220 screen, and I'll give this another test here in a little bit. I'm giving my shoulders a little bit of a rest, and I still also need to do this closet, so that may be another thing that will be good to test out with this vacuum screen handle, whatever. And but coming along good. One of the things that I wanted to talk about is not trying to get this absolutely perfect, unless you're actually going for smooth walls, in which case this wouldn't be the final step anyway. You'd be doing at least one skim coat, if not 2 skim coats in that instance. But understanding that you have 2 other layers from this point. You have one which is going to be your texture, and I'm using I'll probably use like an orange peel or a modified knockdown orange peel type. So here's the type of texture that we're going to end up with. And so you can see there's a lot of splatter that goes over this. And so In the event that you do even find an area that seems like it's problematic when you're sanding, is it within the variance or the allowable parameters to just go ahead and texture over it? And maybe that's just a little bit of a heavier texture area than others, but you also can do some sponge work. I haven't decided if I'm gonna do sponge work. This is coming out pretty smooth, so I may not end up using my blending sponge at all. But on top of your texturing, you're also gonna have paint, and paint actually does do a little bit of filler. So like in your corners and things like that, if it's not, you know, perfectly smooth or whatever, you can decide or even do a test in an area, put some paint up there, and if it's not gonna fill in whatever gap you're looking at, then you'll know next time that you have to go a little bit finer or a little bit further with your refinement. Got my sanding on my ceiling done, not that you can really tell that, but I did have to hold off in the closet because you can see right here, that's still a little wet, and if I ran my sanding screen over that, I'd just rip it all up. But I did find my little brush that I was talking to you about that I use for doing the texture. I will show this step when I actually am doing it, but I am going to call it a day for today. Call it for the weekend here, I think. I may come back, if this is dry tonight, I may come and sand this tonight, but I won't necessarily go on video. So, if you like this video, again, please give us a thumbs up, leave a comment in the comment section if you have any questions about what I'm doing here or how maybe you should do it differently. If I'm able to help, I'll be more than willing to give you guys my 2 cents on it, whatever. And yeah, like, subscribe, click the bell notification, all that good stuff. Share this video, all that. And thanks for joining us as always. God bless.